space, the final frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Hi everybody, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. As you saw there, we're just remembering a friend of ours, part of our community, who passed away just this past week, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. All right, hi there everybody, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us here today. In today's episode, what are we going to be talking about? Well, there are tensions rising on the Gorn border, between the Gorn and the Hydrans, that is. The Gorns are talking trash and making a lot of waves, at least on the propaganda front, and they are moving some big bad fleets into position that can only be interpreted as a hostile intent. What is going on? Is this a bluff? Is there war? I mean, if you believe the rhetoric, war is coming. We shall see what happens. But they're not the only ones. No. There's tensions rising all across the Eastern Front with the ISC, the Paravians, pushing their various buttons with their various neighbors and seeing how that rises and goes. The Lyrans are also facing their own tumultuous set of circumstances with their constant struggles with the Tholian Empire. And of course, the Klingons and the Klingons and the Federation are resolving their most recent conflict with the Feds. So as the flames of conflict diminish in the West, they seem to be rising in the East, and we'll be discussing that today. But if it's your first time here and wondering what in the world is this Star Trek New Worlds, Tony, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you, inspired by the rule set of Federation Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau, and the magic of the map that you will see here momentarily is produced through Vassal. Yes, we are live here today on YouTube, so if you are so inclined, then you can please feel free to be like Melon Merchant there and hit the thumbs up button, or maybe even the subscribe if you like things Star Trek and all things turn-based strategy. Then feel free to join us there. Yeah, let's dive into the chat real quick. Oh, before we go any further, last week's episode had some sort of technical difficulty where the audio and the video were totally out of sync. How are we doing this week? Is YouTube playing nice? Are things going smoothly? You let me know in the chat. Let's check in with the chat and see what's going on. Let's pop this out so I can see what's happening. So Smitty is in the house. Hey, smash that like smash the like, or death by snoo. All right, Eugene, has it been a month since a Splintered Will update? Seems like it. What has happened during the delay? Is there war? Only the threat of war? Is there time to reconsider? Stay tuned for updates. For Terry, who no longer has to ask, where's my turn? He has moved to the realm where turns are always processed instantly. Eugene, again, howdy, Bill. Hope all is well in your area. Stay warm, stay dry, unless, of course, you are hopping in the hot tub. Wow, here we go. More Eugene. You're good this week, Tony. Bill Smitty says. Good. The audio and everything seems to be lined up. That is excellent. Eugene says, Gorn-Hydran front. Gorn's claim the Hicks, that's the Hydran faction, gave a neutral zone offer that was unfair and on a take it or war basis. Any confirmation? Well, we'll have to discuss that. Like I say, our neighbors to the south are full of slander and libus commentary, but we shall see what the map tells us. In the meantime, I hear some rattling over on this side. I'm just going to get rid of this. In the meantime, if you are so inclined, you can see that QR code between me and the chat, and of course down there that on the bottom corner, the link to coffee.com/New Worlds. If you hit that button, or head over to that link, and you can send us a quick photon fire of caffeinated goodness. Keeps our larynx lubricated, stimulated, and giving you the latest and greatest news in just the right way. So if you don't want to tickle YouTube right that way, or you already have, and you're saying, what can I do to get this news flowing? That's something you can do. All right, let's restore the chat and head into our latest and greatest map. Welcome to the Expanse. Let's take a moment, and while we are lingering in the gray world of unknown space, let's hit the EP and fleet cap numbers so we can see what's going on. Now, I will say the version of the map I have, unfortunately, due to a slight, shall we say, error with our GM, there are some slight inaccuracies with the map that I have presented today. I will make note of some of them that I know of, but it is not necessarily the God's honest truth. So we will have to see as we go through if there are any corrections from our good friends in the comments. But you let me know what is going on. Okay, so let's start off with the EP. I think this should be pretty solid. The Carnivant faction in this game, not really visible. Let's go down to Federation 2. There we are. The Federation, that is the orange faction in this game. Normally, Federation is our blue and black brothers, but no, in this game, they are the Fed 2 faction. They are orange, just to throw you for a loop. So they have 121 EP for their economy. Rolling down, we have the Gorn, 160, that doesn't make sense. The Gorn have 115.8 for their economy. The Hydrans sitting at 143.8. Just to remember, the Hydrans were one of the lowest factions on the economic scale way back in the early turns of this game. How they have made a comeback. The ISC are sitting at 121. The Klingons, oh, look at that. Ruling the roost at 154.6. Big money, honey. As we roll down, we see that the Lyrans are at 128.8. Previously, the biggest economy in the game. Now they've taken a step back or two as they are struggling with their war with the Lyrans. 128.8 for the Lyrans. The Paravians, 111.6. The Remans, 139. Bang, even. Our Romulan friends in the game, their collective economy dwarfing everybody else's at 233. And the Tholians rocking, although we can't see all of their assets, rocking it at 272. So when we look at our player factions, we can see that the Klingons are certainly the biggest economy in the game at 154.6. But we have some contenders that are creeping up, including, ironically enough, the Hydrans, just because they were the lowest back in the day, at 143.8. And the Remans, I would say, next on that list at, where are we here? Remans, where'd you go? I lost you. There we are, 139 even. Okay, let's look at fleet cap based on what we have right now. Excuse me. We have the Federation with 157 ships. That is quite a few. 157 at 337 attack, 619 defense, fleet cap 619. We have the Gorn at 181 total ships. That could be one of the biggest fleets in the game at 423 total attack factors, 614 defense, matching their fleet cap. The Hydrans, not even close, at 115 with 248 total attack, 477 defense. The ISC creeping up at 137, their ship count, 413 attack, 668 on their defense factor. The Klingons, also with a big fleet at 158 total ships, 370 their attack factor. Interesting that, look at that, the ISC of 137 compared to the Klingon 158. But the attack factors are so different. The ISC have 413 total attack versus the 370 of the Klingons. That's so interesting. Klingons with a defense factor of 636, one below their fleet cap. The Lyrans, or I should say the Kzinti as well. The Kzinti here at 97 total ships, 232, 417 defense factor, and matching their fleet cap. The Lyrans, 154 ships at 357, 594 defense. Obviously, they've been involved in some, more than a couple, fights as their defense factors are 594 to their fleet cap of 630. The Paravians, with quite a large fleet at 143, have a total attack factor of just under 400, 396, with a fleet cap matching their defense factors at 630. The Remans, biggest fleet, player faction fleet in the game, at 195 total ships, 599, just scratching at the door of 600, 853 total defense factors, matching their fleet cap. And interesting. I feel like I missed out on the Kzinti when we were talking about total income. There they are at 110 and a half for their income as well. So quite an interesting spread of fleets and ships and fleets and attack factors versus economies. Very, very interesting. Not everybody is as, shall we say, as robust as the Remans, but there's other things that sort of bring in or are factored in when you think about the total defense factors and so on. Let's, speaking of which, let's slide up and take a gander at the Lyrans. Let's take a big zoom in here. Whoop. And take a look at what's going on the Lyran front. So you can see here we're in the top northwestern corner of the map. And if we take away the ships and bases real quick, we get a sort of a sense of what's at play. You can see these big red blobs of territory, and the hexes being filled with that burgundy red with the TH. Those are all Tholian-controlled sectors of space. There we are. And they are, shall we say, uncontested, as the Tholians have been extremely proficient at pushing back anyone who is bumping up against their borders. But you can see here there's been an interesting series of events that has occurred. You will note that this little blue thing over here, Bloodstar, is new in Lyran space. And there's a couple other examples of this. So as a background, the Tholians are the sort of, shall we say, waning empire in the galaxy. They formerly ruled the roost across this entire area of the galaxy, and recently have been sort of falling back from their previously established positions. And as a result, all the different player factions have risen up as the splintered will of the Tholians is coalescing in more centralized locations. So the player factions have risen up, and there is also another non-player faction, the Romulans, which are sort of the non-player, more advanced version of ourselves as player factions. They have been the antagonist to the Tholians up until this point. Now they have these enclaves of relief, where they have sort of set up safe zones, if you want to call it. And over the past series of turns, a number of those have fallen. And as a result, Romulan citizens have relocated into certain areas of territory where they have found welcome, shall we say. Their refugees have been welcomed with open arms and relocated to prevent them from being completely wiped out. And that's the case here with the Lyrans. You can see here that the Tholians are pushing into an area that was previously Romulan territory. And if I take away the control zones for a sec, you can see that this planet here is the quote-unquote homeworld for the Romulans in this western section of space. And, well, if I bring back the control zones, the bases, and the ships, you'll notice there's quite a big stack of ships that's moving its way into this area, pushing back all the Romulans that previously populated this area. So what does that all mean? That just means that it looks like the Lyrans have offered the Romies a place to stay as their houses are being burned and their planets pillaged, and they are working their way to the road to recovery. So you can see here the Lyrans are fighting back against the Tholians, trying to hold out the Romulan territory, but for whatever reason, the Tholians are not having any of it. One of the things that had been sort of observed earlier in the game is that all the Romulan territories had this dotted yellow border around them. And this was sort of an energy barrier that, for whatever reason, allowed the Romulans to exist without being seen by the Tholians. But that has since gone the way of the dodo, and for various reasons. And now the Tholians can see some of these redoubts and is attacking them. So that's what's happening here. You can see the Lyrans have a fleet, a little bit of cripples here, trying to defend some of the territory. The Romulans amassing what they have that's left of their fleets. Here we have 4th Legion and Far Stars defending the homeworld. Let's take a quick look at Lyran. Here we are. Lyran Far Stars fleet. There we are. You can see it is a rather robust 2 command cruisers and a light cruiser. Things looking a little doubtful there. If we look at the minor fleets, would they be under minor fleets, shall we say? No, I guess not. Minor Romulan fleets. Okay, so fourth reserve. Right, 4th Legion is a Romulan faction. There's Romulan 2 fleets, maybe? Legions. 4th Star Legion. There we go. Okay. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, a photon has been fired by the Hydran Rebellion funds. Ooh, yes, thank you. Thank you for that. A quick celebration of caffeinated goodness as it warms my throat. Oh, yes. A little AMR for you there. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for, I have a feeling I know where that came from. Our true Hydran Rebellion funds, eh? Yeah. We'll see where that goes. Okay. So, this is, thank you very much for that coffee. By the way, you will notice that the green bar down below, over there, is working its way from, left to right. And, we are 1/5 of the way to our goal. 5 coffees is our goal for today. Number 5 is alive. If you're a Short Circuit fan, that's where we're going. We'll see how well we do. So our other fleet here, which is 4th Legion from the Romulans, you can see they have a Vulture that is their Dreadnought command platform. 7 attack, 8 defense, one of the best dreadnoughts in the Y era. Combination of 5 command cruisers, their Y era Kingbirds. We have 2 of their destroyers. These are the Hawks. We have a total of 5 frigates. And, oh, this is their tug, the YWBF. And I can't remember what that stands for, but this is their tug, which allows perhaps repair of their YDK, perhaps building more bases if that's where they want to go. But between the Lyrans and the Romulans and their YDK, oh, jeez Louise, another coffee has been fired. Photons abound. Thank you so much. We are now 40% towards our goal. Two of the total 5. Who was it that fired? A mystery antagonist. Oh, he says. Oh. Well, I will take a quick sip in celebration of our mystery antagonist, who perhaps is antagonizing a little bit. We shall see. Oh, yes. Okay, so Romulans in the defensive position. Lyrans backing them up. Tholians attacking in a unbelievable, unstoppable kind of way. You can see here there is a stack of ships, quite a few of them crippled, but nonetheless, of the non-crippled components, we have destroyers, scouts, black widows just being ships with fighters, patrol craft, what is that? It looks like a carrier, a small carrier with 6 fighters, another pair of black widows. Unbelievable. Not to mention there is 5th garrison over here, which I have a feeling if I look it up is going to be something unbelievable. As soon as I can find Tholians up here, I'm using my eyes. I really am. There we are, Tholians. Okay, it is the 5th garrison. So we look at garrisons. Oh my God, look at all this stuff. Let's move the Lyrans out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh goodness. If I was so inclined, I would be speaking in a different way, talking about emotional damage. But this is a heavy dreadnought, a carrier with 12 fighter factors embarked, and a couple escorts. Some heavy cruisers, some war cruisers, 3 of them, a scout, and not one. Oh yeah, okay, and a pair of black widows. Coming in for the attack. These guys alone moving at 6 hexes, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like they can't quite hit the Romulan homeworld, but certainly can pop a few other locations if they are so motivated. There is quite a few little things happening in this neck of the woods, not to mention the Tholians just seem to be on the assault, and there's not much the Lyrans can do about it. If we scroll up to the other area of conflict, you will notice that basically it's 2 major nodes. You've got this node up here in the north, where you can see there is quite a stack of ships. If we go from right to left here, war cruiser, heavy dreadnought, command cruiser, a task group of 3 CVAs combining a total of 12 fighter factors, another heavy cruiser, another carrier with 6 fighter factors, along with an escort, heavy cruiser, scout, war cruiser, 2 black widows, a bunch of crippled ships, patrol craft. Oh my goodness gracious me. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So much business here. And if I take away the ships real quick, you'll know they're sitting on a bats with planetary ground defense, a regiment with 12 fighter factors as well. And if I take all that away, you can see there's a minor planet under there as well. A couple turns ago, the Lyrans were successful in destroying a base that was on this, if I take these away again, on this developing planet. You can see that's been devastated. However, Tholian forces are still quite pronounced in this area. Looks like what they have, as far as what the Lyrans have to be able to fight back, you can see they're still recovering their crippled ships. 4 command cruisers, a destroyer, and a frigate. There's no base there, so that's interesting. Predator fleet and 3rd auxiliary sitting on this YDK, which is about to be finished, with a command cruiser, light cruiser, and a couple DDs, again mostly crippled. If we take a look at Lyran Predator fleet, again trying to find, there we are, Lyran Predator, goodness gracious, Predator fleet, there we are. Oh, that's a decent fleet. Look at that. We've got a total of 3 command cruisers, 3 light cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 6 and 6. 6 and 6 is a total of 12 frigates plus 2 prime teams. That is more than enough to be able to blunt the assault of at least some of what is happening here on the Tholian side. Here we see the closest fleet, well, one of the 2 closest fleets of Tholian forces here. We've got 3 war cruisers, 2 heavy cruisers, and a command cruiser with a pair of black widows. That's quite a bit on its own, but certainly Predator fleet could hold its own, especially with the backup of a YDK. Other than that, we've got just some frigates floating around here doing a little bit of patrol, and in the backfield, a little bit of, looks like repair action happening with a YDK as their anchor. If we go down to this sort of middle node here as we work to the bottom of the Lyran map, we can see the 101st battle squadron is sitting with a bats regiment, a monitor, and an MPV. Looks like that's a deployable ground defense. Let's take a look at 101 Tholians. I know you're over here. There we are. Battle squadrons. There we are. 101st has a command cruiser, a carrier with escorts, another heavy cruiser, 3 war cruisers, a scout, and 3 patrol craft. So not the mammoth fleet that we've seen in other sectors, but certainly not something to sneeze at, especially when it comes to the Tholians, being that they are GW ships, the 4th top tier of technology, versus what they're fighting with the Lyrans and the Romulans, both at sort of tier 2 or the Y era. It goes from W to Y to M, and then the last stage is GW. We've got quite a few steps along the way. What else do we got here? We've got some fleet expeditionary fleet and Gold Fang. Let's take a look at what these guys are for the Lyrans and how they are doing. So Gold Fang, GGG. Gold Fang, here we are. Ooh, look at that. Total of 3 command cruisers, light cruisers, and destroyers apiece. And is it 12? There we go. Magic number 12 for the frigate. Sounds like that might be a template that the Lyrans are using to populate their fleets. In addition, we have this expeditionary fleet. Let's take a look. Exploration fleet, maybe? Possibly? I feel like exploitation. No, that can't be right. Let's just see. Is there another exploit? I guess not. That's the bad boy there. So it's just Lyran exploitation, not exploration, exploitation fleet. And it's just a YSR, which is a survey ship. So survey ship along with this 9th exploratory group and Goldfang sitting on a YDK, which is their only defense in the area. But again, as we go back down to this hotspot of activity, we've got the Lyrans with Joint Task Force, not recognizing that symbol off the top of my head, and Apex Fleet. Let's take a look at what the Lyrans have going on here. JTF, Lyran JTFs. We're going to go with Iota, maybe? No, not Iota. Obviously, my math PhD is in the mail. Theta, not Theta. And last one, there we go, Ada. That's got to be the one. We've got a command cruiser, 2 of them, 2 light cruisers, a commando destroyer, 2 crippled destroyers, and a total of 5 frigates sitting here with 4 other frigates as escorts on that base. And then, of course, there's Apex Fleet. Let's take a look at Apex Fleet. Ooh, this is their standard. Look at that. We've got 2 command cruisers, 3 light cruisers, 2 destroyers, and 12 frigates. So that's, again, that template that we're looking at. Maybe a command cruiser and a destroyer shy, but it looks like that's coming in the back end here with 3 frigates, 2 destroyers, a light cruiser, and a command cruiser perhaps making their way to join up with Apex Fleet. So you can see the Lyrans are really throwing everything they have into this mix. And I don't want to count our chickens before they're hatched, but based on the total number of ships here, I think there's a good chance, if they can keep the flow of ships coming, that the Lyrans will actually potentially wear down the Tholians, depending on how much they're actually producing. They might actually be able to wear down the Tholians to a point where they can sort of consolidate and defend their space. I don't know that the Lyrans are at the point yet where they can assault like a starbase, like in this hex. We've got a starbase 36, like a GW starbase, 36 attack and defense, 12 fighter factors, unbelievably EW, backed up by ground forces and fleet elements. That might be a bridge too far, but there are certainly other targets that they can take. For example, this planet here, which has a light fleet defending it. This one here, which is basically nothing. Garrison forces here with a bats, you can probably take that out. And if they're able to destroy the minor bases with the minor fleet elements, then they'll be able to reduce the Tholians' ability to reach or have supply into Lyran space. So that's particularly interesting, I think. We'll see. We'll see how everything sort of evolves as we go forward. Let's chime in with the chat real quick because I see there is quite a bit going on there. Let's slide back in. Oh, yeah. I'm going to pop out that chat so I can read it a little bit better and take a look. Okay, so we've had a couple photon firings of caffeinated goods. I'm going to take another sip because I'm getting a little parched. One thing I will say when we do these live streams, I talk so much, it takes so long, that sometimes the coffee gets cold and I don't drink it all. And, well, perhaps that's because I'm already overly stimulated as it is. Fair point. But if we want to make sure that this coffee gets down, then we got 3 more coffees to go, and I can make sure that I wet my whistle in just the right way to be able to get it done. We shall see. All right, Eugene makes a note here. He says, note that there captured Tholian PC in the Lyran capital. Oh, there are? Question mark? Let's take a look at the Lyran capital. I'm going to look at the Lyran capitale. Ooh. All right, let me slide back real quick here. So this is the cutout for what's in the Lyran capital. And we can see there is a Romulan diplomat and R&D team. But here we can see there is a patrol craft, a crippled Tholian patrol craft being potentially reverse engineered by the R&D team, which is probably what's happening here. If that is the case, that's great for the Lyrans, but perhaps a bonus, a perk, a benefit of having this constant attack with the Tholians is they're able to reverse engineer and get some advantage from that conflict. Slide back in here. A war prize for the lucky Lyrans to successfully capture a GW era ship. Hoo-ha! What will they be able to reverse engineer? Oh, I don't know. They're certainly not going to be able to get pinwheel technology, but perhaps they can develop their phasers, even though the Lyrans do use disruptors, or other kinds of technological advances. Sensors, shields, tractor beams, transporters, all sorts of interesting things. Anyways, Bill says, yes, they can good bit of additional resource points applied to R&D. Yeah, so we have a mechanic in the game, and of course, different sort of abilities or capabilities of these different specialized teams, prime teams, R&D teams, diplomatic teams. One of the missions or the capabilities of an R&D team is to reverse engineer something. And that's clearly what's happening here. Depending on the technological difference between what you are at and what the thing you're reverse engineering is. So here we have Y tech, tier 2 tech versus GW tech, tier 4 tech. That's 2 steps difference. And there's a table to determine how much you can, how many resource points get applied to your research and development. The way we manage that is, again, resource points, and you just work your way incrementally 1 point at a time per turn to be able to uncover different technologies. You can apply additional resources 1 at a time per turn to each technology, and then there's other things you can do as well. But the R&D team is one way to be able to advance that, either through collaborative research and development with other factions, or reverse engineering, or we even have a mission where R&D teams can sort of do their own in-house R&D, adding a random R&D point to any particular technology tree. So Smitty's saying yes, they can. Oh no, this is exactly what he was saying before. All right, well, let's slide back into the map, and we can talk about our next faction on the docket. We're going to talk about the Raymans. Here we go. Hello, my space vampiric friends. What is happening? All right, so the first sort of major thing you'll notice from our last live stream is where are all the Romulans? There was a Romulan faction that existed in this particular nook and cranny of space previously. This was where the Romulan faction existed, and I think in 5508 here was where their homeworld was. Now, we knew that the Tholians were coming in hard with their, obviously, 7th, 1st, and 8th garrison, 3rd garrison in the background here. I could pull up those fleets, but suffice it to say, it is a massive hammer smacking down a mosquito, so over the top. So they were coming in and killing hard. They... If you believe the Gorn, then it was the Hydran Hicks that divulged the information to the Tholians about where the Romulans were, and that's how they were able to cross that boundary. If you believe perhaps the Paravians, they will say that it was an inadvertent crossing of the border by Hydran vessels that allowed the Tholians to acknowledge that there was something on the other side of that energy barrier. If you believe the Hydrans, it was the Remans traveling across that border from a different angle that allowed the Tholians to get through. Regardless, there's a number of different stories at play on how the Tholians were able to penetrate that impervious energy barrier to them. Regardless, it happened, and the Tholians came in hard and strong and wiped out the Romulan faction. But as you can see here, there's a couple of white boxes. As was going on, the Romulans reached out to both the Remans and the Hydrans asking for help, and both provided that assistance. You can see here, as we noted in the Lyran, on the Lyran map, there was a Romulan planet that popped up. Here we can see, if we take away the ships, there is another planet that has popped up from the Romulan side. Ralph's Roost has become a refuge for the Romulan faction, and you can see there are Romulan refugee fleets that are on their way potentially to this planet. So that's good. That's great. The Remans have done their part to be able to protect their Romulan allies. And consequently, there has been a new border established between the Remans and the Hicks. The Hydran the Hydran Industrial Corporate State. There we are. The Hicks. So that they've established this new border, which is great because now all things are copacetic, and we can sort of revisit that as we go. You can see here we've got the refugee fleets on their way. We've got Ralph's Roost established and ready to go. And as we sort of take the big picture look here, I'll just take away the bases and ships real quick. You can see that we've got smattering of resources in the north. As we look to the left, we can see that there is this Burgundy boundary. There we are. Burgundy boundary on the western front, extending essentially all the way down to the south. We can see there is edges of Tholian influence everywhere that the Remans look. And of course, as we scan to the right here, easterly, we can see that the Tholians have extended that reach up into this territory as well. Particularly notable because we've got 2 minor planets and a developing planet that the Tholians have claimed. And, well, at least as it stands right now, that's on the sort of quote-unquote Reman side of the border. So what are the Remans going to do about it? Bring back bases, we can see there is a combination of things going on here. You can see the Tholians are establishing, with their mobile bases, they're establishing a foothold in the territory they just took. So that is something particular to note. So we got a mobile base here and a mobile base here, along with some ground forces backing that up. Other than that, it's just fleet elements that are really substantiating the presence in this area. But from the Reman side, we can see we've got quite a collection of YDKs, one that's being upgraded right now in the area, this YBS being established, providing them concurrent supply into Tholian space if they were to contest it for in some way. And you can see here that the Remans are also establishing bases further north. You can see that 2 bases under construction. Looks like these 2 perhaps may even be complete, as I'm noting that some of the some of the labels that we use to be able to identify when these bases are complete are sort of floating around they are floating around and they have not been removed, even though we are past that particular turn. I'm just pulling up my turn sheet by example to confirm what year we're on. We are on year. We have submitted for turn 55, which is 93 spring. So anything that is 92 fall and back has already been completed. So you can see 92 spring, that's done. This, excuse me, this YDK is complete, but the 93 stuff has yet to be completed. So you can see this YDK is just basically being constructed. This one will be completed this turn, and so on as we are going north. Bring in ship elements. Ooh, what do we got here? We've got an auxiliary fleet, which is probably what's building this base. We've got Pacifica fleet. We've got Columbia fleet. And if you remember, there were some big bad fleets that the Remans had brought in this neck of the woods. So let's take a look at what the Remans have in this neighborhood. Freeman, Pacifica Fleet. All right, here we go. Pacifica Fleet, as we pull it up here on the top end, we've got a command cruiser, the KD-4C, plus another 4 heavy cruisers, plus 8 of their destroyers. And these destroyers are great. There are 3-4 ships, and they're looking good. So 8 of those, 4 cruisers, a command cruiser, and a frigate in the background. So that's Pacifica Fleet. And then right here we have Columbia Fleet. So Columbia. Whoop, that's not what I was looking for. Riemann, Columbia Fleet. There we are. Columbia Fleet, very similar, except we've got the KC-4. The KC-4 is the Riemann Dreadnought in this era. It is a 6-8 ship. Pretty standard for dreadnoughts of this era. They also have a command ship. So the difference between the command ship and the KC-4 is the Dreadnought can command 10 ships as well as itself. So you can have a total of 11 ships in the battle line versus the KD-4C can command 9 with a total of 10. So we've got the K4C, the KD-4C, KC-4, KD-4C. Oh my goodness, so much K's and C's. 4 heavy cruisers, plus we have 7 of these destroyers, which again, great ship, and 4 of these frigates with a prime team. This is, I have made fire, Lon Jerome says. And so anyways, Pacifica and Columbia Fleet have reasonably strong fleets there in this neck of the woods. And then, of course, there's Athena and Atlanta. Or is it Atlantia? We'll have to see here. Atlantia, excuse me. That is on the top. And then I'll pull up Athena, which is on the bottom. We'll pull that up. There we are. Okay, so this is a lot of ships in this neck of the woods. They might be scattered between 4 fleets, but collectively, this is a lot. So we have another 2 command cruisers, 4 heavy cruisers, total of 10 of these destroyers, and another 4 frigates. That's quite a bit. In addition, we have Athena Fleet. So Athena, which is, again, the one down below here, right here, we've got a command cruiser, 4 heavy cruisers, a commando ship, total of 5. Boom! Another photon has been fired. I'm going to take a quick sip here after I finish off Athena Fleet. So Athena's got 5 of these destroyers and another 4 of these frigates. And then there's still Triton Fleet down below. But before I go to Triton, let me take a quick sip and celebrate as I pull up. Who was that if I restore the chat? It was Gorn-Hydran anti-Hydran funds. Oh my goodness. You can see this, right? You can see this concerted effort to demoralize, defame, and otherwise detract from the good name of the Hydran industrial corporate state. I will still sip the coffee that has been donated, but oh my God, all this negative rhetoric around the Hicks. I can't believe what's going to happen when we get to the Hicks. Oh my goodness, it'll be fire, as Lon Jerome has just discovered. Fire as we get there. So last one, Triton Fleet. Let's take a look at Triton Fleet. So this is like, again, just looking at all the ships that the Remans have. And remember, the Remans have the biggest fleet in the game. So these bad boys have another command cruiser, 2 heavy cruisers, a total of 5 destroyers, 3 frigates, and another 2 frigates. So 10 smaller ships supporting 2 cruisers and a command cruiser with a prime team. Like, there's a lot going on here. Like, the Remans have a lot of stuff on this border. And the question is, another photon has been fired. Oh my God. All right. In Terry's name. There we are. You know, when I was just putting together that little memorial clip, it was making me quite teary. Thinking about Terry. Because Terry was, well, we can reminisce a little bit more a little later, but Terry was one of the founding members of this group, and was sort of in our earliest campaigns. And he was, he was infuriating at times, but he was fantastic in the energy, the excitement, the entertainment that he brought. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this all to have fun, and boy, was he fun to play with. So it was too bad that he lived in Australia, and of course, most of us are in North America with the odd faction in England, but it just made it hard to be able to sort of reach out and connect with him from time zone perspective and, of course, geography. But anyways, I will take a sip in celebration for Terry. All right. Eugene has added okay, here we go. Riemann fleets in response to the Tholian movement, ? If not already done. Please review the Tholian fleets in the area, attracting Riemann fleets. Okay, let's talk about 7th, 8th, 1st, and 3rd. Let's go into the Tholian garrisons. And we can see, because it's all one big list. Let's take a look. So, 1st garrison, that's the first one on the list here. You can see it is a DNV. Now, a DNV, I believe, is for the fact that it carries fighters, so it has 6 fighter factors embarked, plus it's a 10-10 ship. It's also got some escorts with it, a destroyer escort and a war cruiser escort, which are not insignificant ships on their own. Then we've got a carrier with its own escorts, so a carrier with 12 fighter factors, a war cruiser escort, and a destroyer escort. Then 2 heavy cruisers, total of 5 war cruisers, although 3 of them are crippled. And I think the mobile base will be able to, if it can't already, repair some of them. Maybe it'll be able to repair, yeah, we'll have to see. We've also got 3 destroyers and these FCRs. So I'll have to go over what FCRs are, because I'll have to look it up myself. But basically the FCRs are like, they are support ships that they bring fighter factors to the battle, but they allow you to resupply fighters in the course of combat. So where you might take damage and quote unquote burn fighters in the process to be able to absorb that damage, the 6 fighter factors that you have with the FCR can be used to supplement your fighter fleet and sort of keep the numbers high and your maximum firepower on target during the course of the combat. So that's the 1st garrison, which is sitting here with a mobile base being set up and a ground, planetary defense unit of a battalion, 6 fighter factors, and a 3 attack, 3 defense. Okay. Then there is the 7th and 8th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the 7's at the top. It has another one of these DNVs with the escorts of the war cruiser and destroyer. It has the 6, again, fighter factors, 10 attack, 10 defense. Here we have, 2 different carrier groups, or 2 different carriers with 6 fighter factors each, with a war cruiser and destroyer escort each. We have a total of 3 heavy cruisers, a total of 4 war cruisers, although 3 of them are crippled. Boom! Another photon has been fired. I will get back to that in just 1 second. 3 destroyers, and then again this FCR, which is providing support. We'll round it out with the 8th garrison. Again, a heavy dreadnought, 12 attack, 12 defense. A carrier, assault carrier with 12 fighter factors. 2 heavy cruisers. Another 5 war cruisers, again, 3 of them crippled, and then these support FCRs as well. All right, so who's firing? Photon fired, the Riemann Diplomatic Corps, walking softly and carrying a big stick. Hoorah! We have hit 100% of our goal. Let's down the coffee. Oh, yeah. All right, so that's the 7th, 8th, and 1st, but we forgot about the 3rd. The 3rd, which is down here, this little guy down here, also has a heavy dreadnought, an assault carrier. Look at all these 8, count them, 8 war cruisers. Yowza. Plus destroyers and these support FCRs with Black Widows, by the way, and a scout. These 4 fleets have more combat potential than the entire Riemann fleet combined, or any other faction. And we know the Riemanns are the biggest fleet in the game. Like, that is unreal. That concentration of force is more than a little bit intimidating. So even with all the Riemann fleets in this neck of the woods, that's a lot of business being provided by the Tholians. Yowza. So here's what I would think would be a logical question. If the Tholians, because I mean, the Tholians don't have infinite ships. If they've put so much of their offensive firepower in this little pocket, what has that taken away from other areas? And we'll get into that in a little bit here. But let's put that on the back burner while we slide over and take another look at the rest of the Riemann space. So you can see the Riemanns are continuing to explore, and at this point in the game, remember that all the space is quote unquote explored. You just need to have supply to it to be able to uncover at this point the fog of war hexes. So you can see that the Hydrans are building bases to be able to extend their reach in a rather profound way. They also have this delta wormhole, which we've discovered that most of the wormholes go to these rather, unfriendly necks of the woods. Unfriendly neighborhoods. There's where is it here? Somewhere down here. There it is. There's this unbelievable briar patch of badness. And the delta wormhole, you can see, is right here. And basically everybody's wormholes show up in this briar patch, and there's something in the middle. We don't know exactly what it is, but there's something in the middle there. We'll have to figure that out. But anyways, the concentration of Riemann forces, it would seem, are on the front, the border of the Riemann-Hydran border, but focused on the Tholian threat. And there's quite a bit of Tholian activity in this area. So that is the Riemanns that we are talking about. Let's slide back to the chat real quick and discuss. All right, so we've got Riemanns, biggest, baddest navy in the game, and they are dwarfed by the Tholian presence. The Tholians are currently tussling with the Lyrans, and the Lyrans seem to be at least holding their own, if not on the verge of getting the better hand. So we've seen that the Tholians, or at least it looks like, they are making strategic choices about where to apply their best energy and effort. But why are they doing that? Perhaps, possibly, most likely, to be able to focus on specific targets. So, for example, they discovered the Romulan pocket between the Riemanns and the Hydrans. Well, they dropped a whole bunch of assets to be able to go in there and pound the bejesus out of that Romulan faction. And they were very successful. They did it. They got it. Boom. Done. They're doing the same thing with the Lyran pocket, but unfortunately the Lyrans are kind of making it a little bit harder for them to accomplish that goal. So that's what's going on there. So we have two different examples of what's going on. I don't know how many ships the Tholians may have or have not lost in the fight with the Lyrans with their little Romulan sect. It would seem that the Tholians lost perhaps very little in their attack in this area, because the Riemanns and the Hydrans both didn't fight the Tholians, but shall we say, were the benefactors of the disillusionment of that Romulan faction. Due to diplomatic overtures, both the Riemann and Hydran factions benefited from absorbing the remnants of the Romulans, creating that new neutral zone border that you see. So that's good. That's great. Good stuff. What is that going to mean for other factions in the game? And I'm particularly thinking of the, shall we say, the hurdle, the road bump, the obstacle between the Gorn and the Hydran. So we'll get to that in a second. Eugene says, missed message. Riemann/Hicks neutral zone has a bulge. Well, thank you for noticing. Any discussion of the diplomacy that allowed the Hicks to push out the border? Well, I believe that is... without divulging anything that might have happened, let's just say that the Hicks and the Riemanns have been in constant diplomatic discussions and dialogue. There have been moments when those discussions have not been going well, and you might have noticed that with, shall we say, the introduction of some rather substantive fleets in the area, and a buildup of defensive forces on the Hydran side. So there was a lot of tension in the area, but there had been some discussions already about like what was going to happen and how things were going to go down. Once the Tholians came into the mix, it really sort of changed the calculus on how things were going. And so there had been a previous discussion about where a line may or may not be, but at the end of the day, it was the Romulans that really determined that border. Based on what resources were allocated to any particular side during the discussions between the Hicks and the Roms and the Riemanns and the Roms, that particular border was based on what the Romulans sort of discussed. 5508, which was, you can't see it now because it's been decimated, but essentially the Romulan major planet in that area suffered the fate of Alderaan, with a fully operational battle station unloading its unbelievable firepower on the planet, leaving a rather rich asteroid field to be mined, but no planet to speak of. So now that the Tholians have effectively decimated and destroyed that planetary body, that planet no longer exists. But all the refugees were relocated to surrounding areas. We'll talk about the Hicks one in a sec. But the Hicks basically, again, between the negotiations between the Romulans and the Hicks and the Remans and the Hicks, the Remans negotiated the border they did. And there was a little bit of coordination, shall we say, to make sure that there wasn't any particular conflict between what the Remans had and the Romulans had. Sorry, the Remans had and the Hicks had, but all worked out in the end. So we have a border. We have a peace at this time and a common foe to focus on, which is the Tholians. So we'll get into the Hicks portion of this here in a second, and I'll show you the concentration of forces that are being built up in this area. Now we are starting to get into a portion of the map which is, based on what I have, inaccurate, but I can give you the updated locations of where everything is based on what I have on my turn sheet. So I'll share that with you as we go. Basically, long story short, in the rush to be able to complete the turn, the GM just didn't reposition my fleets as they were instructed to be positioned. So that caused a slight bit of confusion, but it is what it is. So we'll get into that here, in a momento as I slide over to the map. All right, welcome to the Hicks. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Hydran Industrial Corporate State. Here we are. So here you can see, as I mentioned, for example, I'll take away the ships and the bases real quick so you can see the planetary distribution. So right here, 5508, that used to be the major planet that was the focus of Romulan territory. But as I said, it suffered the fate of Alderaan, and a fully operational battle station unloaded its full firepower on the unfortunate souls, and the fallout has been as such. All the surrounding planets received refugees, and at the end of the day, you'll notice this little Romulan refuge over in the corner has been established. You'll notice that GRS Ventures up here in the top, and Romulan Refuge. We are old hats at being able to take in those. You're sick, you're wick, you're weary. What is it? You're sick, you're weary, and not your woke. But we took all the refugees and relocated them. Like I say, old hat for us here in the Hicks. So let's pull back bases, and you'll see that there is a whole bunch going on. And remember, we are in 93 springs, so anything like these 93 fall ones are about to be completed. These YDKs are complete, and the labels should be removed, but they're gone. So the 93 fall ones are in the midst of being constructed. They'll be completed next turn. And as you can see here, we're making our way up to be able to reinforce the border. And really, as you can see, the concentration of YDKs are sort of around Tholian space. Let's bring back these ships, and I'll give you an update on where all these fleets are, because these fleets, the locations of, are a little inaccurate. Okay. So let's start with First Fleet. So First Fleet is supposed to be in 5712. So let's just move it there. That's where First Fleet's supposed to be. Second Fleet. Is Second Fleet here? There's Second Fleet. Second Fleet is supposed to be 5611. 5611. Boom, right there. And what do we got? Third Fleet. That's Third Fleet. Third Fleet is 5709, so right where it is. So that's good. All these ships are right where they should be. Fifth Fleet is 6317, so 63. Huh? 6313. Oh, Fifth Fleet was supposed to be... Hold on, what am I looking at? was supposed to be in 6313. Okay, so 6313. It was supposed to be here. That's 5th Fleet. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I got to look at the right one here. So 6313. What else is in this neck of the woods? We got 4th Fleet here. 4th Fleet is 6117. 6117. It's down there. And what else we got? New Fleet. New Fleet is 6217. 6217. That's where that one is. And yeah, okay. So I think that's it. So at least in this little corner. So this little corner, that's what this kind of looks like. And there's some populations of fleets that I'll just make sure are correct. I think they are, but we'll take a look. All right. So long story short, what do we got here? We got with the new territory that's been the control of the new territory has been established. So we're just kind of building out support and logistics to be able to supply it. So we've got bases being built here. Bases potentially going to be built in this area to be able to support the logistics of being able to defend the border. And of course, there's a couple of resources up here in the corner, or at the very top of the map. There's 2 of them, just one beyond the map of what you can see. There's 2 resources at the very, very top that are just outside of logistical reach, even though I've got supply 4 outside of that supply. So we've got to build bases to be able to tap into those beautiful, juicy resources. But what else do we have? We have these YDKs and this concentration of ships down here. So what do we got? 3rd, 2nd, and 1st Fleet. Let's look at those fleets so that you can get a sense of what's going on. So let's pull up 3rd. 3rd is at the top here. We got 2nd. Hydran. Come on now. I was just looking at you. Hydrans. 2nd Fleet. Here we are. We'll put that right there. And then 1st Fleet is on the bottom. Hydran 1st. And we'll just make sure that I have all the right information. Okay, so according to my documentation, let's start with 3rd Fleet. So 3rd Fleet should have 4 CCs and 10 volts. So that's 4 YCCs and 10 volts. That's accurate. Okay, so you can see 4 command cruisers and 10 frigates in 3rd Fleet right here. 2nd Fleet has 1 command cruiser and 10 vols. That ties in with what I have as well. And we have on 1st Hydran Fleet, we have sort of the inverse with 9 command cruisers and 6 vols. So that's really, really good to know in the sense of like these are significant fleets. Not quite the same disposition as the Riemann fleets because they got those destroyers that the Riemanns have. They are money, those ships. I don't have that option. So in the Y era, the best sort of mix that I can get are command cruisers, which are 4.6, the same as the heavy cruiser for the Riemanns, and my frigates, which are 2.3s, which are just the same as Riemann frigates, not quite as good as their destroyers. So yeah, I've got a slight disadvantage when it comes to the pound for pound potential of my fleets versus the Riemanns, but nonetheless, some good fleets here. But the big strength that the Hydrans, have in this area, if I pull away the ships, is the distribution of these YDKs. So look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 YDKs in this little pocket next to the Tholian pocket. Now, what does that mean? In this game, in this particular campaign, and in New Horizons as well, by the way, each of these YDKs can produce one small class, like a frigate, can create 1 frigate per YDK per turn. Now, if it was a star base, so YDKs are the early era star base for the game, so W and Y era. So that means that the YDKs can build Y era, up to Y era ships. They can build Y era frigates. Great. If you were to upgrade it to an SB star base M, then it can build M era frigates. And if you were to go one more than that, which is the just fully functional starbase without the M, then it can build GW era frigates. All right. So that means that these guys can build 7 frigates in this little pocket per turn. Well, that's fairly potent because A, Tholians don't have that capability. Riemanns don't really have that capability. If you look over on the far left, right under on the other side of my head there, 1, 2, 3, they've got some YDKs that they're building, so they can start building frigates there as well. Not their destroyers, but they can build frigates. So the advantage basically that I'm talking about here is that the Hydrans can build a disproportional number of frigates in that particular little pocket, which is a strategic strength for them. What can they do with it? We'll see. It still takes a while to get from the capital way over here, get all those command cruisers or whatever the cruiser platform. You can't, got to get them over there. But at least in the pocket, they can build a ton of frigates, which is good because frigates become basically the chaff that can be burned in major combats. However, you got to have a lot of frigates to be able to, support crazy amounts of battle if you're going to do it. And especially if you're going to attack the Tholians. We've already discussed their ridiculous fleets in 7th and 8th garrison and 1st garrison. So if the Hydrans are going to attack the Tholians, wow, we're going to need a lot of ships because they like double our attack potential each turn. So I'm going to need a ridiculous amount of frigates because they're just going to burn through me like, I don't know, like I'm paper and they're an inferno. So anywho, that's that. So anyway, that's what that coast is looking like. But let's look at the total opposite corner of the map. Now I can only go so high. You can see in the top right corner over there, see these two little tugs. So these two little tugs are building a YBS there and a YBS there. And these two YBSs are going to, because I have supply 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, covers basically this whole territory up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. With these two bases being built, we will uncover this entire area here. This entire area will be uncovered, and that'll be sort of the back end of the Hydran territory will be discovered, and whatever resources are up there we'll find. And that puts us more sort of in the same boat as the Remans. So, for example, we slide over to the Remans. They've essentially got most of all of their territory discovered with a little pocket up here. The only territory they don't have is really what looks like to be Tholian territory. And so that's what that looks like. So as we scroll down here, we are starting to come across the Tholian, what I'm referring to as the Tholian speed bump. And it's in context to the Gorn. So let's take a look at, we'll take a look at the middle section and then the far right section. So let's look at the middle section. So the, as we mentioned before, the main focus of the Hicks and the Hydrans is this sort of commercial corporate exchange thing, right? Like we're interested in trade routes. We're interested in trade routes, economic development, growth and expansion. And so one of the things we're looking at is, okay, well, how can we get some trade going with the Gorn? Despite the fact that the Gorn are talking, a little more hostile, there's still the potential to be able to trade with them. Okay, great. If we take away the ships real quick, you'll notice that right here there are 2 YDKs. Well, one's about to be completed, it looks like, in 93 spring, which is the turn that we've just submitted for. So there's going to be 2 YDKs here. Well, that's great. You can trade between YDKs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a little far if I'm going to build a YDK to there. But if I pop something in here, because notice these 2 pockets are not Tholian controlled territory. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 hexes. We can establish a trade route, right? So if we can establish a trade route, then we can, maybe get along a little bit better and everything else. Because up until just recently, the Gorn had been talking trash about their neighbors to the south, not really focused about big green boy up top, which is us. But recently, that rhetoric has shifted, and the discussion has been more about how the Gorn are going to, demolish those that are north of them. So, anyways, that things have gone a little bit south, pardon the pun, but in a northerly direction. And so, anyway, we were building these bases in the hopes that perhaps something was going to happen. But let's bring back the ships, and you'll see how this is sort of failed epically. So we can see here that we've got the tugs, obviously building these YDKs, and a bunch of frigates for the Gorn. I like their improved frigate. Look at that. It is sort of the inverse of what we have. We've got 2 attack, 3 defense ships. They've got 3 attack, 2 defense ships. All W era, which means they only move 3 hexes at a time, but nonetheless, interesting. When we pull up the second fleet, which is the big Gorn fleet that's in this hex right there, oh my God. Oh my God. So again, second fleet's right here. What? We have a dreadnought, good Gorn dreadnought. It's a 6/8. command cruiser, their command cruiser isn't quite as good as ours. It's a 3-5 versus our 4-6, but comparable. A bunch of light cruisers, 3-5s again. Prime team, commando ship. And what? 18 plus 2, 20 frigates? 20 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1. 26 ships plus a commando ship. 27 ships plus all that other stuff that's nearby. 27 ships right there. Those weren't there the previous turn. They just moved that up. Okay, well, maybe the Gorn aren't looking to start a fight. Well, that might be the case, but we'll talk about the other fleets they moved in just a second. So we were building this YBS here with the hopes of upgrading it to a YDK to be able to get to the point where we could do some trade. This base is going to be completed, if we take away the ships real quick, in 93 fall. So not the turn that we're submitting for, but the turn after. So we've got, and what kind of ships do we have in this neck of the woods, by the way? We have a tug and the 7th exploration fleet. Let's just pull up Hydran exploration fleets. So the 7th exploration fleet is the one that's there. 7th. It is a large exploration freighter and a tug. Those are the two ships that are in that hex. I wouldn't describe that as a invasion fleet. Nonetheless, the Gorn have positioned a rather substantive fleet of ships in this spot. So, what's their intent? Maybe hostile. We'll have to see. As you can see here, we've got a ship that's or a base that's being upgraded to a YDK, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, so that's that. Let's slide over to the east, and you can see that here's a couple of updates I need to make here. So 6th Fleet is not in the Romulan Refuge. It is actually 7918. So 7918. It's there. There's another fleet, and I'll just pull up a marker for... No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm pulling up ships and Hydrans. There we are. And markers. And there is a fleet marker. There we go. So we'll just put the fleet marker right there. Get rid of that. And we will change the label to 7th. Boop. Oh, no, hold on. Mark moved, show units, change row, change top row. There we are, 7th. So 7th Fleet. 7th Fleet is in 7306. Sorry, 7316. So 7316 right there. Boom. Okay. And so let's pull up 7th and 6th Fleet. So Hydran 7th Fleet and Hydran 6th Fleet. Okay. So these are the two fleets. There's a fleet there and there's a fleet there. Notice how far away they are. We've got two bases being built here, one here, one here. They'll be completed this turn. And they're on the edge or working our way down the edge here. And then we've got two fleets that are heading down there. We've got 2 command cruisers and 8 frigates, and then a tug. Sorry, it's yeah, that's the way it is. So 6 is there and 7 is there, and then a tug with an additional 8 frigates. So that's basically 16 frigates, 2 command cruisers, and a tug heading down this way. Not crazy, and certainly there's not a lot over here to contest, but going down that way. So there had been a comment about border negotiations with the Gorn, and a sort of take it or leave it, we're going to go to war if you don't accept our proposal. So, full transparency. The Hydrans had reached out to the Gorn to be able to negotiate what's going to happen down the east side. And we said, well, we would like to have access to the Romulans, which are, of course, these big blue guys down the right side. And we would like to have a corridor to be able to get down to them. We don't need all of the territory, obviously, but we would just like a corridor to be able to get down there. 2, 3 hexes, something like that. And the Gorn were basically said, absolutely not. This line, the 24 line, where this Tholian resource is right here. And straight across is the line. Don't come any further south, take it or leave it. It's like, well, I don't know how we can agree to that. Is there any way that we can sort of negotiate some kind of route to get down to the bottom? And of course, keeping in mind that if you look at where the Gorn are, they don't have any supplier reach to that area. So they have 3 supply as of right now. Maybe they have 4 next turn. Who knows? But let's say they have 3 supply. So they have reached out to here. Well, this base, I think, gets completed this turn. So we could move, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we moved here and then built a base, 1, 2, 3, 4, we would have explored and claim all the territory basically in this little neck of the woods here. So if we were just sort of first come, first serve from an exploration perspective, we would have that little corridor. No problem, right? No big deal. But again, the Gorn were very stern and firm, and bottom line said, no, you can't come any further south. So we didn't agree to those terms. And we said, okay, well, we'll just have to see what happens. Because we don't have a big military force in that area. We're not looking to have a fight, but it's just like, again, first come, first serve. So what was the Gorn response? Well, okay, they're building their base here, and then they move 3rd and 4th fleet into this area. So let's just look at what Gorn 3rd and 4th fleet are. 3rd fleet and 4th fleet. Boom. So I don't want to prejudge. You be the judge. But let's just look at what this is. Dreadnought, 2 command cruisers, 4 light cruisers, another 4 light cruisers, a total of 8, 10 cruisers between light cruisers and command cruisers. But that's not all, folks. No, we have 6, 12, 18, 21, 23 frigates and a commando ship, plus a prime team. That alone, as a standalone fleet, is ridiculous. Like the ships that I'm bringing down, which are still in the backfield, they're not on the line yet, and they won't be there for a turn or two. That's my total frigate count is 16. His is already in the 20s. I don't have a boatload of cruisers, but he's got 10. And a dreadnought to command it all. Crazy, right? But that's not all, folks. No. We have one more big fleet just below it, which is another dreadnought, 2 command cruisers, total of 7 light cruisers. So not the total 10 cruisers, 9 this time. But when we go to the frigates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 24 plus 3, 27 frigates and a commando cruiser. So how am I supposed to take that? Is that so to put it into context, we have a massive fleet here, which is 2nd fleet, right? That's Gorn 2nd fleet. That's this big boy, right? Then we have these 2 mammoth fleets over here coming up the right side where I have nothing. There's nothing there other than a couple of tugs building bases. So we got tugs building bases and then massive fleets coming up there and then massive fleet on the border with me. So what am I supposed to, how would you interpret the movements of the Gorn? Again, I don't have massive fleets on the border with them, but they are moving massive fleets on the border with me. How would you interpret that? I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. And again, big context, right? What else we got here? We got 9th Fleet, which is on their homeworld. So Gorn 9th Fleet. Generally speaking, not an overly crazy fleet. They got a bunch of W-era frigates, which are good. Don't get me wrong. Those are good frigates. They got 18 of them, plus another 6. So 24 frigates, plus a bunch of YFFs and frigate leaders here, which are 3/4. They got an interesting mix of ships. So basically, they got a whole bunch of frigate ships on their homeworld. And then 10th and Sojourn. Let's take a look at what that is. So 10th Fleet. This is the fleet that they sort of put on the Romulan border. 2 command cruisers and 11 frigates. That's very similar to what I have, right? not a big deal. And then Sojourn Fleet, which is, okay, let's look at this bad boy. 2 improved W-era frigates. Okay. So if we look at the big picture, they have redistributed, 80, let's be generous, 75%, if we're being conservative, 75% of their overall combat strength to the northern border and in positions to be able to, if not this turn, but maybe next turn, attack Hydran assets. Why? But nonetheless, this is what they are. So this is the picture we're painting, right? Okay. So again, looking at what we got up here, the majority of Hydran military assets on the border with the Remans, obviously in response to what was there before. Then the Tholians came up, and so the majority of our military forces are in this area. Not necessarily positioned to attack anybody, but nonetheless in this area. We have a couple things moving south because, well, the Gorn have been talking a big game, and then we have some things moving down the east side. But the Gorn have moved the majority of their major combat fleets into this area. Qu'est-ce que F, mes amis? Qu'est-ce que F? So anyways, that's what's going on there. How would you take all that? The Gorn have also been in our Discord chat because we have, in our Discord channel, we have channels for banter back and forth. We have channels for diplomacy, so you'll be able to get in there and have a voice channel with somebody and talk things out. And then, of course, we have narrative components. So if I look over at my Discord channel for the narrative for Splintered Will, and I just look at what's being described. So let me see. This is an example of what of what the Gorn have put out. There's like what looks like a magic card that's been posted in here as an image, and the Gorn say, with the new threats from other empires, the Gorn supremacy has decided to declare a jihad, and we choose green. And then they post this image of this card. And I got to zoom in here a little bit to see it. So it says, I'm going to open it in a browser so that you can see this card that I'm referring to. This is what I'm looking at, and I can't zoom in any more than this, but it says, Jihad, choose is a card. Choose a color. As long as opponent has cards of this color in play, all white creatures gain +2/+1. Jihad must be declared immediately if at any time opponent has no cards of this color in play. I don't know what this game is, maybe Magic, but regardless, this sounds and looks like a declaration of war in the narrative channel. So I don't know how you would take that, but yeah. And of course, in the, of course, me just not like, I'm not just whining and complaining, although it may sound like that. We've got all sorts of different things in our sort of banter channel, and the banter channel has this wonderful little GIF that you may recognize from such great films as Starship Troopers. This is what the Gorn posted. I think it's pretty clear. I think the Gorn are coming for me, and there's no way to get around it. So, hey-o! That's the way she goes. So that's the Gorn, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, creatures of all ages. That's what's going on here. So that's the Gorn moving all their military might to be able to reach out and touch the Hydran Hicks in just the right way. Tickle our fancy, cup us in the right way, and force us to cough. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Let's go to the chat and let's just see what's going on as we go. Here we go. Yes, the chat. Let's pop it out and see what everybody has to say. So, Lon Jerome, looks like, oh my goodness. Okay, going back to the last coffee that was fired. You Can't Be Betty says, Hicks disinformation campaign. Ha ha ha. Eugene, Riemann Hicks, neutral zone has a bulge. Okay, so we discussed the bulge. Bill Smith says new territory has been assimilated, question mark. But bet the Hydrans do have the Tholians. Oh, Bill says, but the Hydrans have the Tholians on their side. Really? Petty, the Gorn says, true that. But they don't have an all-state agent, Jerome says. The Bog Green, maybe it's Borg Green meanies. Be careful what you hope for. I'd bet something will happen, just not what you want. Maybe. Eugene says, what was the Hicks proposed border with the Gorn? Was it a take it or war offer? So as mentioned, no, it was sort of a first come, first serve. Like if you want to do the rush and land grab, then you go ahead and grab what you can, and we'll do the same, and we'll just see what happens. And at the end of the day, it was just like, we just want a channel to be able to get to the Romulans. But that was no goad. So, yeah, basically the Gorn, as was communicated to us, were not willing to allow in any way, shape, or form any other faction to get around, quote unquote, behind them. And in this game, I understand. I mean, we've got factions on all sides, but I mean, with the exception of a couple of key factions which are in the corners, like the Lyrans and the Hydrans and kind of the Klingons, but basically you've got very few factions that have that don't have people on all sides. The Hydrans are one such lucky faction. They don't have anybody in the corners, and they just happen to be in the corner. The Gorn want to try and emulate that as much as possible. They've got the Tholians up top, obviously, and Tholians, they've fought the Tholians before, and it's basically been a bridge they can't cross in the sense of they were fighting them with Y ships, and the Tholians were kicking their butt, and they were playing a great standoff game, but they weren't actually winning anything. They were just frustrating the Tholians in the attack, which is great. Don't get me wrong. That was a huge win strategically because, I mean, you've got tier 2 tech ships versus tier 4 tech ships. And yeah, but regardless, it was a good sort of back and forth. However, and then to the south, they had the Romulans. So the Romulans are same tech level and militarily far less sort of imposing as the Gorn were and are. But as we've seen in previous live streams, and we'll discuss here in a moment, the Paravians and the Gorn were discussing and not getting along on how they were going to potentially eliminate the Gorn. They were going to come in south and take a bunch of territory, but there was some disagreement about that. And so it looked like for a time that the Gorn were going to go toe-to-toe with the Paravians. Great. That has since changed. And obviously the Gorn are now focused on the green as opposed to the amber or the red and yellow. So instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken, they're looking for calamari, and that's how that's going to go. So anyways, but they have people on the north, they have people on the south, and arguably there's no one to their direct west, although they'll eventually run into somebody. And as you can see, or we will see here in a moment, they are exploring to the west and doing that. But they were totally unwilling to have anybody come down that east side, and that's sort of the crux or the source of that disagreement, shall we say. Lon Jerome. Yes, Eugene, I think it was. Bill Smith. I also heard the Gorn were going to rescue the Romulans from the Gulag planet. Right. Because everybody thinks that I'm a Tholian shill, and I've obviously imprisoned the Romulans. Hicks propaganda, Petty says. The Romulans told us that the Hydrans told the Gorns, you must stop. What? The Romulans told us that the Hydrans told the Gorn, you must stop now and go no further, or it is war. That's what I heard. The Romulans told us that oh, okay. So right. So apparently that's what Jerome is saying about what the Hydrans, or what the Romulans told the Gorn about what the Hydrans said, and I can just say that is completely inaccurate. I heard the Hydrans put their used chewing gum under the command consoles. Gorn choose violence. Example of Gorn recon in force. Yes, so there you go. Hey, George. Jerome says, hey, Bill, George, Petty, and Gene. Eugene, I heard last night that the Hicks were upgrading all their command chairs with Corinthian leather. Commercial upcoming for the highest level of commander comfort. Will Montalban speak? Well, there has been some discussion after the rather profound conflict that was between the Tholians and the Gorn. There was, as a result, the Gorn, they molt, right? Because they have scales and they molt their skin. And so there was a question as to what can we do with this this rather large amount of molted scales. And so there's been some work on the Hicks, because we're all about reduce, reuse, make a profit. And so what can we do with all this stuff? And there was a pilot project, a prototype of what was referred to as Corinthian leather. And those of you who may remember back in the old days, Ricardo Montalban, otherwise known as Khan, for those of you Star Trek 2 fans, had an amazing car commercial where he talked about Corinthian leather with his silky smooth accent. And so we were thinking that Corinthian leather would be an excellent way to be able to make use of this spare resource. If it is the case that the Gorn are going to decide to engage in high-end conflict with the Hydrans, then how can we make use? How can we profit from such a conflict? Well, in order to provide a perk and perhaps motivate our command crews, we are thinking that depending on the amount of resources we have and how many recycled Gorn ships we can gather, perhaps Corinthian leather would be a phenomenal way to be able to motivate and reward our command cadre with an upgrade to the luxury of their command thrones. What do you think? Is Corinthian leather a new feature, a new add, a new bonus that we can upgrade our command cruisers with to be able to motivate and otherwise manufacture demand for such luxurious features? You let us know. I think it would be great. In space, there are no corners, Jerome says. True, but on this map there are. And no one can hear you scream. Also, everything ends up vacuum sealed. So true. Yes, the Gorn molt when being held down and skinned alive. No comment. Right. Well, we'll restore the chat there, and away we go. Okay, so that's the Gorn. We talked about the Gorn, the Reman, the Lyran, and the Hicks. Let's roll down to our Kentucky Fried friends in the Pravian Empire next. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So this is the faction that I think has the most potential to spark off a conflict of some type. But let's talk about the Kentucky Fried Chicken faction that is working its way up. So let's get rid of this control zone. You can see that the light blue is obviously the Gorn territory. And the Pravians, and this is the big thing, right? The Pravians are building, I'll take away the ships real quick, are building a base network deep into Romulan territory. So what do we see here? We see base building going on up into Romulan territory here. Interesting. Why is that the case? Well, Romulan capital is over here and a major planet is over here. So we bring back the bases. We can see there is logistical supply. If the Pravians were focused on building a reach into Romulan space to be able to attack the Romulan homeworld, if that was their goal, technically they have it, but it's a weird way to go because they're pushing up and sort of into this Y formation. Why is that? Well, we've got two bases, and really this base, what's the benefit of this base? Well, if they destroy the Romulan control of the territory, then the greater the distribution of their bases, the more easily they can mop up all the resources. That's one good point. Second, this base, and potentially this one as we move our way up, provides potentially defense or reach into Gorn space, because let's assume they have four supply. I think everybody's going to have 4 supply real soon. 1, 2, 3, 4. That takes them right up to the DMZ. 1, 2, 3, 4, past the DMZ. So this one actually gets them into potentially 1, 2, 3, 4 Gorn space. And of course, if they build more, up into this border area. That'll get them reach into all of Romulan space and potentially Gorn space. But I was originally thinking that this was all an effort to be able to gain access to and attack the Gorn homeworld. If we bring back bases and ships, whoops, I have bases. Let's bring, oh dear, there we are. So we bring back bases and ships. We see Owl Fleet sitting here on the capital. Also interesting to note, a Kzinti prime team or research and development team and a diplomat. But let's look at and a Gorn research and development team. But let's look at home fleet for the Romulans. Romulan 2 home fleet is rather substantial. It has 2 Falcons, which are Maulers, by the way. Maulers, direct damage ships. They have a total of 8 frigates, 4 destroyers, 4 cruisers, 2 command cruisers, and a dreadnought, one of the best dreadnoughts in the game. Plus a commando ship, a military convoy, and a troop ship. So not an easy target, shall we say. And of course, on the Romulan homeworld, we'll do the Romulan capital. You can see they have a YDK, 4 planetary ground bases, and of course their home system. So they got some good stuff, and they got some YDKs in and around the neighborhood. So they're in a pretty good shape. You can see they've got a number of ships and legions. So 1st and 3rd Legion, by example. 1st and 3rd, here we are, 1st Star Legion. So this legion has as well a Vulture King. So Vulture's their dreadnought, command cruiser, a couple cruisers, destroyers, another Falcon, and 6 frigates. That's their 1st Legion. That's right here. 3rd Legion, which is over here. Also, there we go. So 3rd Legion, that's this one over here. It also has a dreadnought. Like, they've got some good ships. There's a lot of capability here to be able to defend against a Paravian invasion. So the question is, are the Paravians going to invade? It seems less likely because there's a lot of resistance that they'll experience. We've got tugs and various other things potentially getting ready to build out other bases and work their way up. Okay. So if you were perhaps looking at the social structure of some of these players, the player for the Paravians has often said he wants to come and attack me. And so if they were building up logistics to be able to get ships up this way to be able to attack me, that makes total sense. They want to work with the Gorn and attack the Hydrans. Gotcha. No problem. One hiccup, though, in that thought process is, what the hell is going on over here? So while this effort to be able to go up the east side of the map, there's a push to go into the left side of Romulan space. Now, why do that? Well, this is where that major planet is, and if, as I understand the discussions before, the debate around who's going to take over Romulan space, who's going to attack them, destroy them, take them out, if the Paravians believe that's them, this is what they would do. They would build out infrastructure, perhaps learn from previous games, to build out infrastructure and then systematically, after pre-positioning all their ships, attack and destroy in 1, 2, 3 phases really quickly all the defensive structures and take all the resources. So there's a really good chance that they will be able to attack and destroy, if this is their plan, and eliminate all Romulan defenses and just take all the territory in one fell swoop. The only factions that can oppose them in this, as it seems like they're building out this capability to do, are the Gorn, as they are the other faction bordering on the north with the Romulans. And as I understand it, this was the debate previously, is that the Gorn wanted to do the exact same thing. And there was a discussion on how to evenly divide Romulan territory, and there was conflict around that, but I digress. But not only the Gorn, but also the Kzinti. Now, on a slightly sort of more somber side, the Kzinti in this game were being played by Terry, and as we mentioned, Terry is no longer with us. So we are looking there. We have some feelers out for some players to be able to take over this faction. I think we've got a good lead. We'll see how that goes. But whoever the new Kzinti faction will be, the question is, how will they choose to resolve this issue? Will they be copacetic to just sit back and relax? Will they work with the Romulans and cooperate and collaborate? Or will something else happen? But that is not the only major mountain that the Paravians are looking to climb. Let's go back into their whole territory. Let's take away ships and bases again real quick. They have it's a little hard to see because they're red. They're sort of an orangey red and yellow versus the red and white of the Tholians. But if I bring back the control zones, you can see sort of their territory. They've got a good concentration of resources and so on, and they really push down sort of into this easterly area here. If we bring back the ships, and bases, they've got a good reach, and they're kind of working their way around this pulsar here to be able to get as much as they can, and certainly working their way down here towards this Romulan faction as well. But the two things. One, they had a challenging time trying to contest space with the Tholians. The Tholians had, as you can see here, a number of fleets in this area, and the Paravians decided to go to war and attack them. Now, that wasn't the most successful encounter for the Paravians. They were unable to effectively extricate the Tholians from this area, just because the technology wasn't there, I think. And they fought a good fight and just weren't able to move the needle enough to really make a difference. So, by contrast, they've done a couple of other things. They are now building a base network down into the south and are coming into contact with the ISC. Now, why is that an issue? Why would that be a concern for the Paravians? Well, the Paravians have a persistent perspective of expansion based on the characteristics of the player playing them. They have routinely, regularly, and consistently engaged in dialogue and discussion about taking out and leveraging the most amount of resources possible. Totally understandable. This is a 4X game. We're here to fight and conquer. So when thinking about the South and this particular Romulan relief, there was discussion about how the resources may or may not be divided in this neck of the woods. And it would seem that we're just going to close this because apparently Steam is running. Shutting down Steam. There we are. Okay, no more little notifications. So we have this little Romulan pocket here, and, well, look what's happening. We've got YDK, and potentially another base being built. The ISC are working their way up into this territory. Are they looking to take over and displace the Romulans? Maybe, maybe not. But they have rather substantive fleets in this area, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. Let's take a look. ISC 2nd, ISC 4th, ISC 5th. Let's look at these fleets. These are all in this area right here. 4th, 2nd, and 5th. 3, 4, 5 command cruisers with a dreadnought. Whoa, 4, 6, 12 cruisers. And their cruisers are strong. 4 attack, 7 defense. Then they've got these light cruisers, which in my opinion are the best ship for the ISC in this era. They are a 1-point repair, which is a really big advantage. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 of these ships, and again, they have a 4 attack. They bring the same attack potential as a heavy cruiser and are a 1-point repair. They are great ships. Then with the destroyers, they've got a total of 6, 7, and 13 of those, and then frigates on top of that, 6, 7, and another 7, 14. So this is like a 30-plus ship fleet with a predominantly, proportionally all cruiser attack factors, really powerful fleet in this neck of the woods. And then, of course, you've got 3rd and 6th fleet as well. ISC 3rd, put that there, and ISC 6. So in the backfield a little bit here, but nonetheless a good position. We've got a total of how many? 6, 7 cruisers, 2 command cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 5 destroyers, and how many? 6 frigates. So not as much as the Gorn, certainly, but a very healthy fleet to be able to come in and do stuff here. We've got third flock, third expeditionary, and Hawk fleet by comparison. Let's pull up the Paravian example and see what we got. Hawk fleet. Hawk fleet's good. Look at this. Dreadnought, the KSS Jessie, as in Jessie's girl. 4 cruisers, and they're good cruisers, 4 6s. They've got 3 light cruisers and a total of 8 frigates with a prime team. So this is a good fleet. However, again, looking at the total compot of what second, fourth, and fifth can bring, they're going to get dwarfed. Third expeditionary fleet, or exploration fleet, shall we say. Paravian exploration fleets. Third, if we move this, we'll put this in order. So third exploration fleet is 3 YSRs working with 2 Raptors. So nothing really crazy here, but they are, apparently there is a base right there. Then there is third flock. So these flocks, we can see here, we'll put that there. 1, 2, 3. Third flock has a total of 4 cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and again, 8 frigates with 3 prime teams. So Hawk and third flock are big, relatively speaking. And Paravian Eagle fleet, which is the fleet that's just to the north, just up here. So Eagle fleet's just up there, within spitting distance to be able to react. Dreadnought, cruiser, light cruiser, and 4 frigates. So why do I bring all this up? Well, if the tensions are high between the ISC and the Paravians, not knowing that they are, but if they were, and there was some contention about how this Romulan relief was going to be divided up, assuming they were going to attack it, and there is some concern about the Paravians coming down into what may be perceived as ISC-owned territory, what's going to happen there? How is that going to get distributed? How is the exchange going to happen? I think there is a potential, at the very least, for the ISC to be able to dig in and, shall we say, contest some territory with the Paravians. At the same time, this is going to detract from the Paravians' ability, resources, and capacity to be able to explore or continue to expand their base network if their long-term vision is to be able to take out Romulan territory in the north. The longer that gets delayed, the more likely that the Gorn may shift focus, or that the Kzinti will reach in and contest what the Paravians are doing. So let's zoom out on a longer sort of perspective here. This pocket and the trifecta of these 3 powers, the Kzinti, the Paravians, and the Gorn, I think is the most consequential, at least in the next 10 to 20 turns. This is the most consequential area in the map right now, because I believe that the Gorn are obviously engaging with the Hydrans, and that's going to cause some opportunity, at least for the Paravians. The changing of the guard with the Kzinti will provide potential conflict and or opportunity, depending on which way the Kzinti go. What may or may not happen with the ISC and the Paravians will also contest what's going on there, and we'll have to see how that evolves. But like I say, I think this side of the map, the east side, between the Hicks, I'll bring back the control zone so it's a little bit easier, the Hicks and the Gorn, that conflict will be consequential in the sense of the Gorn have a lot of ships, and we'll have to see how that all evolves. What happens between the Paravians, the Kzinti, and the Gorn around the Romulans. If the Gorn get distracted for too long and don't do anything, maybe the Paravians have enough time to be able to just take Romulan territory. And if that's the case, economically, they are going to be unstoppable. They will decimate the Gorn potentially. They will be hard to stop unless the Kzinti and the Gorn collaboratively or in competition try and grab up some of this Romulan space at the same time. Also, if the ISC choose to engage the Paravians, that will slow down what they are able to or not able to do with regards to the Romulans, and will pull resources down to whatever conflict is down here versus what's going on up there. Will the ISC take this pocket? Will the Paravians contest it? How will that go down? Who knows? We'll have to see. It'll be very interesting to see how that evolves. I see lots of chitter chatter. Let's roll back into the chat before we talk about the Federation and the Klingon. All right, I'm going to pop out my chat once again so that I can read it. Here we go. All right, so what do we got? We got... oh, right. Eugene. No one can hear you. Cream in space. Vacuum seal. Bill of Smitty. Okay, so Corinthian leather best used in command chairs of the Hydran escape pods. This is the Gorn player mentioning it. So not only, for context, does the Gorn sacrifice his young by throwing his frigates to be destroyed, not crippled and then repaired, but just destroyed by the Tholians. No. He is sacrificing his people to outfit Hydran command chairs. Maybe not in the command cruiser, but in the escape pods. So just think about that. You want to sacrifice your people to texture the seating surfaces of your opponent. Just saying. Gorn jackets, boots, and gloves, Smitty says. Petty says, it's a rough trip through Hydran atmospheres. Well, it's the humidity that gets you, really. Eugene says, if the Paravian can split the ROM capital from the rest, it would create would it create an isolated sector? Good question. I don't know. Like if you mean like if they took the Hydran capital, would there be a new capital that popped up and the Romulans would like sort of relocate? If that is the question, I don't know the answer. Here's another question, though. If they were to attack the Romulan capital and there's a Romulan enclave just below the Paravians, would those Romulans then attack the Paravians so the Paravians would get it from the top and the bottom? I don't know. It'd be interesting, certainly. Petty says Paravians are dealing with the other half of the axis of evil, Hydran and ISC. Wow. So that's funny because, oh my God. So I'm not sure what dynamic has occurred or changed most recently. But there was a time, not too long ago, where the Gorn and the Hydrans were really contentious with each other, really pissing each other off. And usually it was all about the discussions about how they were going to divide up the Romulans. And so the Gorn and the Paravian were going at it with each other. And so obviously something has happened, something significant has happened, and they've shook and made up. And somehow the ISC have become the big baddie. I don't know. I'm not sure how that happened, but okay, the ISC are now the big baddie. And somehow the ISC are now part of the axis of evil, coordinating, collaborating with the Hydrans. It's not enough that the Hydrans are some kind of Tholian shill, but now they're also working with the ISC on the other side of the galaxy. I'm in the northernmost side of the galaxy, and now the ISC, the southernmost tip of the map, somehow the Hydrans are working with them as well. Do Gorn conspiracy theories know no end? Do they have a depth that is infinite? How far down this rabbit hole will you go? Perhaps the delusion that is perhaps it's mushrooms. I'm not sure. Some kind of experience enhancing substance is obviously at work here, because the Gorns are going down a path of delusion and I don't know, lack of rationality. But it's very entertaining, and I'm going to enjoy the ride. Magic carpet ride, as they may say. Eugene says bases are set up to block ROM supply? ? Is that effective with ROMs compared to other empires? That's a good question. I think that's really something for Robin, our GM, to answer. I don't know the answer though. You could certainly set up bases. So if you set up bases with reaction range, so you would have to have bases and ships with reaction or extended reaction range to be able to obstruct supply. And with the supply rules, extended reaction range doesn't work for disrupting supply, only reaction range. So you would need a 2-hex distribution for bases to be able to disrupt supply. theoretically. And if you were to attempt to disrupt supply in Romulan space, you would be declaring war with them because it would be an open conflict. So that would be interesting to see how that would evolve. Again, if you're declaring war, you might as well just attack all their supply outposts and then take their resources. I think that's like, again, this is what happened in New Worlds. Terry was playing the Carnivon, and Terry and Jim, who is playing the Paravians, was the Hydrans in that game. So the Coalition of Green asked for Klingon help. I was playing the Klingons at the time, and we built bases into their territory to facilitate getting up into their area of operations or where the war was fighting. But because Terry had been so kind as to sort of backstab me earlier in the game, I took this as an opportunity to sort of repay the favor. And after building logistical supply into his territory to facilitate attacking the northernmost reaches of the conflict, I then said, nah, I'm not going to do that, and just attacked Terry and took him out. And I think I reduced the Carnivon economy by something like 40% in that one move, and that demonstrated sort of the advantage of being able to build your fixed supply, distribute your military forces, and move in one fell swoop. And in one, basically in a 3-turn sequence, I was able to destroy the majority of his bases, occupy and take all the resources, and then set myself up for defense for the counterattack. It was impressive, and it was very interesting. I think I was going to make an attack on his homeworld, but it didn't quite work out due to some very good reaction orders that Terry wrote at the time. So yeah, it was really, 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 really good. Dell is waving to the Remans. Hey. Yeah, so as far as building bases to be able to affect that thing, I think that is the gameplay that the Pravians are doing with the ROMs. I think they're basically replaying that same strategy. We'll just have to see how it's delivered and how they're able to execute on it. All right, let's finish off with the Federation and the Klingons on the map. All right, as you can see, this is the big map. So we went sort of around the clock. We started as we go up here. Whoop, 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 whoop. We started with the Lyrans in the top left corner. We worked over to the Remans, then the Hydran Hicks, then down to the Gorn. Talked about the Paravians and the Kzinti and the ISC. We're not going to spend too much time on the Kzinti right now, just because again, their sort of quote unquote ownership is in flux, and we're just going to figure that out. Once that gets resolved, we'll see what's going on. A couple of interesting things about the map. You can't quite see it. I wonder if I zoom in, if you can see this. Yes, you can. So in the bottom left corner, there is a major planet, and it's independent. And I've never seen that there before, and I'm wondering what's going on. Is there another element in the game that is being revealed? We're able to see it, but what's going on there? I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out. Interesting to note, as we sort of zoom up to the top left corner, nothing in the top left corner for the Lyrans. We don't know yet for the Hydrans, because we haven't explored that yet. And if we go down to the bottom of the map and go far right, let's go all the way over. Move Tony over to the other side here briefly. The IC haven't explored it either, so they don't know what's over on that side. So perhaps there is just something in the bottom left corner. Where's my cursor? Bottom left corner that's going on here. We'll have to see. But the big news over on the Klingon side, they have been between the Federation and the Klingons, they have been attempting to defend Romulan faction from Tholian attack for many, many turns. They've been getting hammered, by the Tholians, and they've been defending back and forth. Now we can see here that the Romulans are no longer in existence, and I think it's basically because, if we take away the ships and the bases real quick, I think it's because the Tholians have done what they did in between with the Romulans that were in between the Remans and the Hicks, and they have decimated the planet. I think that there was perhaps because these trade routes went back and forth between Romulan and I think somewhere around here, and I can't remember. I have to go back and look. Maybe in this hex right here, there was a Romulan home planet, and it's been decimated. The fate of Alderaan. I know we're mixing our Star franchises, Star Trek, Star Wars, but the fate of the Romulan planet in this area has been completely destroyed. Now, if we take away the bases, we can see that perhaps the Federation have provided a refuge for Romulan refugees, just like we saw in the Lyran and the Riemann and the Hydran Empire. They have done that up here in the north. So that is most likely what's happening in that context. And the Federation have provided a refuge for the Romulans. Federation provide, and so the Tholians have been exercising an unbelievable amount of combat force in this area. You can see there's lots of crippled ships for lots of damage that has been incurred, and they have assets on all fronts. They have big pocket here. They've obviously taken. Is there a planet here? What's the deal here? Let me move these ships out of the way. So there was there's a planet. There's a planet that's been devastated here. So I'm thinking, based on the way this looks, the Tholians took it. Perhaps from Romulans and or Klingons, not sure. But there's maybe from the Klingons, as the Klingons have bases in this area. So they have decimated and taken this. The Klingons perhaps are still at war with the Tholians. I am unsure, as I do not have the latest and greatest news on this particular conflict. I have not been updated by the GM. But we do have a lot of Klingon forces in the area. You can see refugee fleets right there in the trade route zone, and they are looking, I imagine, for a place to go. We have Klingon forces in the area providing perhaps cover. Whether the Tholians will continue to prosecute a war with the Tholians, we'll have to see. Ooh, I see some stuff in the chat where I have to jump in there in a moment. But we have lots of potential conflict still occurring with the Tholians on the east side. And on the west side, you can see here we have rather substantive fleets here. We have a scout with a large 3 CVAs. That's pretty significant. And then over here we have another carrier. Stop. There we are. With destroyer escorts, patrol craft escorts, and some destroyers. The Tholians have really sort of like bracketed in or surrounded the Klingons. The Klingons have, for all intents and purposes, expanded as much as they can without coming in direct conflict with the Tholians. So the question is, are the Klingons going to refocus their efforts on a targeted campaign against the Tholians, or are they going to sort of rest and recover and build up some fixed resources to be able to attack? Because if you notice, I just took away the ships. Their base network, I would say, is not strong, and it's got pockets of strength. So, for example, you got a couple of YDKs down here. You've got a YDK randomly over in the corner here, over here. So there are some YDKs out and about, but they're just not concentrated in an area where they can sort of bring their full force to bear against the Tholians. And again, the Tholians are, 2 tiers of technology ahead of everybody. So what is that going to look like? And of course, the Tholian bases, let's take away the control zone for a sec. Starbase. They got lots of these star bases kicking around, and they are hard targets to take. So how is that all going to work? We'll have to see. If we go up north here and look, I don't know why the supply menu always gets left on for the feds, but if we look at this, the Federation, and we'll take away their ships because the ship's already taken away. Look at this. So the Federation have a much more concentrated base network. Look at this. YDK, 2 hexes away, got bases at almost every 2 hexes. Pretty close. So a very concentrated, mutually defending and supporting base network for the Federation. They've got a concentration of YDKs in and facing the pocket of Tholians that they've been fighting. If we bring back the ships, you can see they've got Second Fleet sitting here on a YDK. They've got another YDK being built here, possibly taking out and attacking these. There's a sector base here. 4th Garrison? Okay, let's look at Tholian 4th Garrison. Is it possible that the Federation are on the cusp of a major victory? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4th Garrison, different from the other garrisons, is commanded by a command cruiser, not one of their dreadnoughts. Cruiser, one of them. 4 war cruisers, 2 destroyers, 2 Black Widows, and a scout. This is not one of their strongest fleets for the Tholians, that is. They do have some other ships in the area, though. But, you know, if the Feds were concerted enough, focused enough, and able to get in there, they could do some serious damage. Let's look at Fed 2 Second Fleet. Sorry, what am I looking at here? Second Fleet. Fed 2, home, new. I guess maybe battle fleets? Huh, okay. Battle group fleets? No. Alliance fleets? No. Numbered fleets. Okay, numbered fleets. There we are. Okay. So there's Second Fleet. Wow. Okay, so this is the Second Fleet right here. It's sitting on a YDK. I'll get rid of the control zone so that it's easier to see. Second Fleet, and this is the hard target, right? This is a battle station. It is a supply point for the Tholians, and they don't have a lot of stuff around it. They have a sector base nearby. Now, the sector base is a 12 attack, 24 defense EW platform with ground forces supporting it. So if I'm the Federation, I'm thinking I'm going to take out the bats and then work my way forward. Now, look at this Second Fleet. 2 command cruisers, 3 YCAs, 9 light cruisers, a destroyer, and how many frigates? 22 frigates and a command cruiser. So I would be really interested to see how effective that fleet will be against the combined, assuming they go first, if they attack this base station, if they're able to take it. There's also Third Fleet up here, which is within operational movement to be able to do that. And if they do, Third Fleet is also 2 command cruisers, 3 cruisers, 3 light cruisers, a hospital ship, 2 prime teams, and a commando cruiser. So the 2 commando cruisers could assault the base, the battle station, and cause SIDS on it, while the rest of the fleet is attacking and taking out this relatively small fleet. I think without a doubt that Second and Third Fleet combined, and possibly Second all by itself, could go in there and take out that bats successfully. And then there's still Fifth Fleet, which can move forward and do some mutual supporting. Fifth Fleet is a command cruiser, 2 light cruisers, a total of 6 frigates, a Vulcan scout ship to bring some EW to the game, and then a couple prime teams. So yeah, I think there's more than enough here to really mix it up with the Tholians. The question is, will they, with the Federation and the Klingon, continue to fight this protracted battle with the Tholians? I think this is a really good potential for some victory for the Federation. And if they're not going to be left high and dry, then I think the Klingons, let's see, Klingon, where are you? Klingon, here we are. Klingon Green Fleet, which, oh man, Martok, Green Fleet, there we are. So, it's not enough. The Klingons, that's so weird. The Federation have really large military forces, and according to the fleet cap, the Klingons do too, but I just don't see it. Like, I'm not seeing it in their fleets here. So Klingons have 158 ships with 370 attack, and the Feds have this basically the same number of ships and a very similar attack and defense factor. They've probably got more cripples, which is why, you know, the different, well, maybe not that many. So they're very similar. And yet I don't see a lot of the same sort of quote unquote victories happening on the Klingon side versus the Federation side. I'd be curious to hear from our Federation and Klingon players. Why is that? What's going on? What's what's the dynamic with the Tholians? Are you finding a way to get along with them and de-escalate, or are you looking to take more territory and get in there? Because theoretically, if the Federation was able to connect or break through this area and take and cut off the Tholians with either Kzinti help or whatever, then I'd be curious what that would do to the Tholian supply network. They would create an isolated area of the Tholian economy. Would they be able to get the same ships back and forth and all sorts of stuff? Like, what would that do? I'd be really curious. Yeah. All right. So, what do you think? What do you think about the Federation and the Klingons in what looks like their knife fight with the Tholians? Certainly, the Romulan faction that they've been dealing with has suffered a great loss. But was that a big gain for the Klingons and the Federation, respectively? How much EP did they gain as a result? What was was there a conclusion to the conflict with the Tholians? What happened? Let's hear about it from those players. All right, let's join our chat again, because I can see Julian has joined us. All right. Welcome, Julian. Late again. That's okay. We got lots going on. So let's see. George Forknell is here. Thumbs up, everybody. That's right. If you haven't already hit the like button, then please feel free to tickle the YouTube algorithm in just the right way. I see 10 of you have, and of course we've got double digits viewing right now, so don't be shy. What else we got? We got Bill. Hey Del, what's down? What's down you? I love it. It's probably all just the thumb texting. That's probably what it is. You can't be petty. The oh my goodness. The Gorn-Paravian Riemann Klingon Federation to creating a new military alliance called GATO. All right, so the Gorn and the Paravians are working together. The Riemans are working with the Paravians and the Gorn, and the Feds and the Klingons are joining this coalition apparently to form GATO. Right. Okay. Treasure, Eugene says. In the narrative, that is where the Batliff of Kalis has been taken. Where? Perhaps also Excalibur and the writing of Serac. Klingons are sending archaeologists teams to repatriate. Oh, okay. So apparently there's something in our chat that is discussing this. If you want to be part of our Discord channel, then you can also join our Discord and coffee tier to be able to join us on the Discord. Just join there, and you can also partake in the witty banter, the back and forth, and the good stuff that happens on our Discord channel. Also, Discord members or coffee supporters and Patreon supporters get our first crack at being able to join new campaigns when they get started. So feel free to head over there and check that out. Jerome says, it's only turn 56. Well, according to my turn, we have just submitted 55, so we're waiting for the turn 55 or the turn 56 map to be returned. So this is the turn 55 map, which is the turn we submit for, and then so we're waiting for 56 to show up. That's what I'm seeing. I lost my chat. I'll bring it back. Here we go. Julian is late again. He says, oh, what? Dell says, so you're saying it should have happened 10 turns ago. Why has the Riemann player not taken over the universe yet? Well, Dell, having played the Space Vampires in a previous campaign, is notably concerned about the lack of Riemann dominance in the game. But I think the Riemans are doing pretty good. They do have the biggest military in the game so far. Hey, Lon, how you doing? Conquered all yet? Lon, Jerome says, working on it. Had to take time out to recover from a heart attack and open heart surgery. Yes. Everyone seems to be dealing with something. But that's why we're here, to provide you a entertaining relief and something to keep your mind occupied while you're working on that recovery. Almost there now. Okay, so that is, after 2 hours and 15 minutes, give or take, that is the recap of our campaign thus far. This is where we're at. This is what's going on. What do you think? Are you concerned about the lack of progress against the Tholians by all factions? Are you thinking that perhaps the Lyrans need some help? Perhaps the Federation and Klingons should focus on trying to assist their northerly neighbors. What's going on the East Coast? Is the east side of the map really just such a cluster of ridiculousness? Are the Gorn going down a delusional black hole with all their thoughts about conspiracies up, down, left, and right? Are the Hydrans and the IC actually working together? Or perhaps the Tholians are the connective tissue that binds the galaxy together? Yes. Who knows what's going on and how will it evolve? Well, the only way to know it is to be like Melon Merchant there. Hit the subscribe button, follow us along, and help us on our way. We're currently at 374 subscribers. Not bad for a little niche channel like this. Let's get ourselves to the magic number 500. That's our goal. Let's get there. If you know somebody who likes Star Trek, then please share this with them. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next week at the same bat time, same bat channel, right here, Star Trek New Worlds, and we'll go over what's happening next in the New Horizons campaign. Good stuff. I'll see you next week. Ciao for now.